Hi, I'm Jim Taylor. Welcome to the 12th video in this In Favor teaching series. Your words are powerful. What God says about what you say. And in this section of this series, we're looking at when Jesus used his own words in powerful ways and then seeing what we can learn from that. So be sure and download the handout at infavorresources.com. You're looking for the one that says number 12. Jesus speaks from the dead, which is what we're looking at now from the story in John chapter 11. Now you're familiar with this story about Jesus' friend Lazarus taking ill and Jesus delaying his response until Lazarus actually dies. And then he and his disciples travel to Bethany, to the funeral. After Jesus tells them to take away the stone, this is over Martha's objections. Her brother's been in the grave for 4 days. Jesus actually speaks in two directions. The first one is vertical. He speaks to God in prayer. On your handout there, verse 41. Then Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And then he goes on in prayer. And then next, he speaks horizontally. He speaks to the dead man. Verse 43. When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. Now notice, that's not a prayer. He had just prayed to God, and now he's giving an authoritative word of command to someone who's in the grave. And it has a miraculous result. Look at verse 44. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Man, you ever been to a funeral like that? I haven't either. There's a quote from the box in your handout there. The voice of Jesus is potent and life-giving. Lazarus provided proof of Jesus' earlier words, the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. Now, some of us have heard this story so many times, since childhood, really, and read it so many times that it has become commonplace. It no longer wows us like it should. But listen, Jesus spoke words to a man who'd been dead 4 days, and the man came back to life. This wasn't the only time either. I've got two passages here. The references are on your handout. Luke 7. A widow is in a funeral procession for her dead son, and Jesus approaches the casket and said, words, young man, I say to you, get up. Not a prayer, an authoritative command. The result was miraculous. Verse 15, the dead man sat up and began to talk, and Jesus gave him back to his mother. The other examples from Mark chapter 5, when a 12-year-old girl passed away, and her father summons Jesus to come to the house, and when he arrives, he finds the usual wailing and crying that accompanied a funeral in Bible times, and that meant that the girl was already dead, the people said. But Jesus said, she's not dead, she's only sleeping, which interestingly are the same words that he used about Lazarus earlier in John chapter 11. Well, they laughed him to scorn when they heard him say that. But then he took the little girl by the hand and said, spoken words, little girl, I say to you, get up. It's not a prayer. It's an authoritative word of command. And immediately we're told, miraculous results. The girl stood up and began to walk around. Now, in these three passages, Jesus is no longer contending with illness or storms or deceptive fig trees. Now, the enemy is death itself. With a loud cry, Jesus calls the dead people and commands them to come out of the grave. And Lazarus and the boy and the girl all obey the authoritative word of Jesus. And they were dead. Neither grief or delay or misunderstanding or criticism or unbelief or even the grave can withstand the word of the Lord. And we continue to see that familiar pattern through all of those passages. The presence of faith, an authoritative spoken word of command, and miraculous results. Because our words are powerful. That is what God says about what you say. Now take a minute to think about this. I believe that this passage is probably more than any others one that we feel, many of us feel, is just out of our reach. Oh, you're asking me to pray for financial provision? Sure, I can do that. You're asking me to pray for miraculous healing? Sure, I've done that before. But praying for someone to be raised from the dead? That's another level. It's a little bit different. We often say only 3 things are sure: taxes, death, and trouble. But maybe death doesn't belong in that list. Maybe that's not so certain. Jesus seems to think that we can do even this. And I just don't feel like we're done with this passage yet, because for some of us, it's hard to imagine us raising someone from the dead. So as an extra added bonus, no charge for this one, this is free, I'm going to add on a video to this one. I'll call it 12B. And I want to show you how some of Jesus's followers did exactly what they saw Jesus did, even though it seemed to be impossible, and they're no different than you and I. So I'm doing this to boost my faith in the power of my words and to boost your faith in the power of yours. So please join me for that one.